Hey, what's up, everybody? Just finishing up my job here, and I wanted to kind of go over a subject that I've been thinking about: intent. So, intent is all around us all the time. And as you guys know, well, maybe you don't know, I usually shoot from the hip. There's no nothing that put here in front of me, and, I'm not looking at a screen or reading from stuff. Not saying that I'm not going to do that. I think that's smart because then I can keep the point, and stay on topic. And I like to go on rants, but let's just stick with, this topic: intent. So when I go to work for somebody, and for example, just the other day, I went to a lady's house, and I had given her a bid to take care of some yard work. She accepted, and so I came out to do it the next day. Well, when I went out to go do it, her neighbor came out from the side house. That they're literally adjacent to each other. That means that they're right next to each other. I mean, they're very, very close. She comes out and she says, do you, basically asking about my services, asked me if I could help her too. And I said, yeah, sure. Let me give you my phone number, and then I'll get back to work here because, I'm already doing one account, so I might as well give her my number because this is, how I'm going to make my money and how I make my connections and stuff like that. This is my networking. So I'm trying to do my networking here. Then I get back to work, and I'm getting everything done. So I get some hedge trimming done. Actually, all the hedge trimming was done. All the walkways, I trimmed them, did the edging, and then I had my helper, Dakota, as you guys all know him. He was he was pulling weeds and stuff like that. So he was taking care of stuff. And I mean, all there was really left to do was just pretty much mow the lawn and blow. And this is about when I actually even cut some trees, but that's not important. What's really important is that around this time, the lady comes out and she tells me that, if you're going to work for me, you can't associate with my neighbor. And so I said, well, I, have already spoke to her and gave her my phone number. So then she replies, well, if you're going to choose her over me, then that's fine. So at this point, I'm kind of getting, I'm confused a little bit because I'm wondering, does she want me to leave because this, or I'm not sure really what's going on. So then she starts to tell me about their quarrel, which I don't want to get involved in this quarrel. I'm actually at a red light here, so I can talk for a second. So I don't want to get involved in this quarrel, right? I'm not interested in hearing what they did to each other or what's going on between them. And I tell her, I say, well, I'm not really, interested in talking about your quarrel with this woman, as I don't know you very well. I just met you yesterday, and this is the second time I'm speaking with you today, and I've only met your neighbor just once. Well, as this is happening, her neighbor is poking her nose out her door. And so then my customer tells me, you see what you did? Now here she comes. And I'm thinking, this lady probably has her window open and she's listening to this other lady talk about her right in front of her house, and she has every right to come out and see what's going on, especially if she thinks she's gonna, use me for work. And then the lady tells me, you just don't know. I'm just a nice lady, and I just want to get an honest job done for an honest price, and I don't want you associating with my neighbor. And so there's a couple ways I could handle this. I'm going to tell you how I handled it, and then I'm going to tell you some wisdom of how someone else told me to handle it. So first off, I tell her that I can appreciate that you are saying that you're a nice person and all that. However, you don't get to make the call of whether you're a nice person or not. especially tell me that you're a nice person. And I said, I get to make that judgment call, as I don't get to make the call that I'm a good worker until I've done the work. And then you can say, oh, he's a good worker. So that's my call. She didn't like it. And I got a little more extensive, and maybe I shouldn't have went so deep, but I said, well, I can see that you've had, you've had a rough time. And you have a feeling of loss. And I could see it in her eyes. And actually she did tell me. I wasn't thinking about it in that moment, but she had just lost her husband maybe like three years ago or something like that. Maybe less, maybe more. I'm not really sure the time, but she did tell me that she had lost her husband. And in that moment, I kind of felt like, well, her husband probably was the one that did all the talking, and that she's not really that sociable of a person because her husband probably did all the talking to get work done and stuff like that. And this is just an assumption. I don't know for sure. So I tell her that your intent tells me that you're most obsessed, and I didn't actually use the word obsess. Actually, I used concern. That you're most concerned with security and certainty. That you want to be certain that I'm not going to talk to your neighbor if I'm working for you, which is completely ridiculous. We'll go on a little side note on that, because that's my livelihood. And I did say that to her. I said, I'm not going to shape my business around your personal preference. This is my business, my livelihood. That's just a personal preference. Then I tell her that, I think that you're also concerned with security. Like, she wants to be secure because she's so insecure, even speaking to me, as I could tell. I said, so I'm telling this lady that I just met, this is the second time, that I can see that you're most concerned with your security and your certainty, which is not very, it is what it is. It's not one of those things that you're like, oh, this is really hard to figure out. It wasn't. It was obvious. And then I told her that if you would allow yourself to do something before you know, then you might, learn something. If you have to know before, then you might not do a lot of things. Basically, if you need to know before, you're not going to trust. And I'm trying to get her to trust me. And I don't think I'm doing a very good job at it at this point, obviously. You guys go and tell me what you think about that, but I don't think I'm doing that good of a job at it. But I'm saying what's in my heart, and I'm really trying to be respectful, as I basically got almost all the work done, and now we're having this crazy conversation, and it's just getting, it's getting a little too intense. My worker comes around the corner, and he sees what's going on, and he's starting to get anxiety. I get anxiety when he gets anxiety, and I'm just one of those people that gets anxiety sometimes. So, and I'm telling her, I said, you're kind of giving me anxiety now. And she's like, well, this and that, and she's getting, pretty serious about it. Well, finally, I just say, if you would allow yourself to be vulnerable, then maybe, we could get, come to an agreement. Because right now I'm feeling like you have no interest in compromising. You're just wanting it, or if you don't get it, you're going to pack up your toys and you're going to leave. And so I ask her to allow herself to be vulnerable, and she just gives me kind of a snotty look, looks me dead in the eye, and walks away like, you know how people do that. And I'm like, whoa. So I'm like thinking, what am I going to do? Am I just packing up and leaving? Am I going to try to get some of the money? What's going on with Dakota? Is he comfortable? And so about maybe 4 or 5 seconds later, after I pleaded with her even more, I can't remember the whole story verbatim, but I even asked her, what can I do to make you comfortable? Because I'm willing to compromise. but we're both going to have to put skin in the game in this. And there's just certain things that I'm not willing to compromise, as I can see there's certain things that you're not. So I ask her to be vulnerable, and then she goes, picks off for about maybe 15, 20 seconds, whatever it was. And then she comes back and she goes, well, and she says it in a real face gets all scrunchy. And she's like, I would like you to just finish the work and then just go. And in that moment, actually, I was actually thinking, because I'm usually pretty laid back and I'll just do it anyway. But in that moment, I'm like, I'm not going to do this. And so I just say, I'm not going to finish, actually. However, I'm not going to charge you for what I've done. And we're basically finished. So you get a freebie today. I'll clean up what I have left and I'll go. I could tell she didn't really like that. But, I mean, the way she was making me feel, I guess I didn't really have a choice. Anyways, the moral of the story is intent. This lady's intent was absolutely clear to me, but she was trying to manipulate me. And I wasn't going to allow her to manipulate me, and certainly not allow her to put her personal preference above my business. That's just not going to happen, And I wouldn't ask anyone to do that for me either. And so I decided to leave. Well, after I left, I wanted to get some more advice from someone else about the situation. And so I called up my friend JC. You guys have seen him in some of the videos. He's a fellow landscaper, very knowledgeable. He knows a lot about religion. So that's why I really like listening to what he has to say, because there's just so much in, the Bible and in all religions that you can really just learn such good life lessons. So he tells me that I would have just told her, oh yeah, I spoke to her, but that's no problem. I'll just, I won't speak to her. And then I asked him, well, and then would you not speak to her, or would you? And he's like, well, I would just probably go with whatever customer was the one that was the better of the two. And so he had his preference and I had my preference. I don't know if I fully agree with what he said, but I understand what he's saying, because I missed out on $175. I just walked away from the job and I had already done all the work because of my personal preference. And so, I mean, I've never had this done to me, ever. And I've been doing this for 20 years now, so this is kind of a weird experience. But I learned a lesson, and it is that trust your intuition. And I felt it right off the bat. When we were texting, when we were talking, I could just feel that there was something off. And I think the lady next door was trying to explain this to me. But anyhow, it's just a quick little story. It's on intent. Intent is all around us. If you listen to your intuition and you really go by the intent, you can always tell what somebody's motives are. And that's how you find the people you love. That's how you find the people that love you. That's how you find the people that you should be hanging out with, that kind of stuff. You just go by intent. So, just a quick thought. If it doesn't come from love, it's wrong. Greg signing out. Got to cash my check here at the bank. I hope you guys all have a good day, night, and evening. Bye now.